the minute that I start recording. She's always in this shot. What's up, guys? Here I am, another video pulled off of YouTube. This one's kind of interesting in that the people, or this person here, doesn't do anything wrong, but I had a fair amount to say about how the system could be a little bit more efficient and a few things that I would change. So yeah, nothing more to say. Let's just get into it.
Slack. All right, secure. Off belay.
Okay, so I cut this video up a fair amount because it was quite a bit longer. But where we're picking up right here is this dude drilled two, looks like 21 centimeter ice screws in for an anchor, and he offset them just like the way we like to do in ice climbing, so that's quite nice. He also has a 16 centimeter screw a bit higher up, and with a quick draw into it, which was his protection while he was building the anchor. All that is really good and solid. A few things that I would change off the bat right here is the anchor positioning is very low. So you can see how he actually drilled that 16 centimeter screw higher than the two anchor screws. And, you know, in ice climbing, this cattail, in ice climbing, we like to place our screws about hip level while we're climbing because we need some leverage to push the ice screws into the ice and to make sure those teeth engage. A nice part is when you build your anchor, you can use both hands to build it high. So he's not working with the best stance right here. What I would do is place that 16 centimeter screw just like he did, and then I would clove hitch or clip myself hard to that screw in some way so I could sit on it, and I would reach up higher than that 16 centimeter screw, and you can hold the big anchor screws with your one hand while you push with your other hand, and that's how you can engage them higher up, like head height. Because when you attach the anchor to it, that's going to mean that the ice screws are even, they're lower, you know, when you, the cat totally screwed me up. Okay, when you clip your ice screws to that, or clip your anchor to those ice screws, that means the master point is going to be lower than the ice screws, right? That's pretty much how anchors are built. So if you put your ice screws down by your hip level, now his master point is really low. And this is something that I teach in all of my courses, and I have on all my videos about building high master points. All guides are super into the high master point thing because it just allows you to belay so much better and allows you to work in a really great zone. It also gives you a lot of security, right? So if you think about this setup right here, his partner is going to get up to his anchor, and who knows, like the video cuts out before that, but if you want to be clipped into the master point, you're not going to feel as secure because to walk up into that little ledge that he's at, you're going to have some slack on your tether. Whereas if you put your anchor higher to begin with, then you can actually sit on that anchor and feel a lot more secure. Anyway, let's keep moving here.
What? Okay.
Okay, so she just said belay off, right? This guy called out belay. And it's interesting how, so you got two ice screws right there connected with an anchor master point, and then you have this other screw off on its own that they're clove hitched into. They clove hitched into that single ice screw and called off belay before they were actually connected to the full anchor. So that is a little point right there, is you want to make sure you're actually connected to a redundant anchor before calling off belay. And that's what this person is doing now, is they're pulling out their connect, adjust, and clipping into the anchor so that way they have 2 points of contact. So it's a little bit, you could say, more messy of a system because you could just be clove hitched to the master point of the anchor and call it good. But eventually you get 2 points of contact in, so it's a redundant connection to the mountain. And I would switch up the system a little bit right there, where I would have myself clipped into the master point first and then call off belay. And then if you want to add in something like a Petzl connect adjust or some other attachment, then add that in after you're clipped in with the rope.
This.
So I'm not exactly sure why this person switched the anchor right there. I think they have a pre-tied quad, and it was to make the limiter knots more equal with each other. I'd say in ice climbing, I would rather just have the knots way offset because the ice screws are way offset if you're going to use a quad anchor. And quad anchors are pretty nice because it helps as much as possible distribute the load between the two pieces. At a hanging stance, if I have 2 clients with me, a lot of times I'll just place 3 ice screws and do the whole pre-equalized thing because I like having 3 ice screws, and that depends a bit on ice quality. If it's good ice and I have a good ledge that's not so much a hanging stance, then yeah, I'll just use 2 ice screws. If I have even good ice with a hanging stance and a group of 3, so me and 2 clients, then I'll probably use 3 ice screws. And if I do a hanging stance with just me and 1 other person and they're good at long ice screws, then I'll probably do just 2 ice screws. One thing I do want to bring up in this anchor though is you see in the lower ice screw, got sky, you see in the lower ice screw, that one is really in some good ice. It's nice and white, and it's you can see how the hanger is totally flush with the ice. The one on the left though, it seems a little interesting. It's hard to tell in the video, but you can clearly see that the hanger isn't fully flush with the ice, and it may just not be the best chunk of ice that this person has chosen. So what I would do in this circumstance, they're still really long ice screws, which is nice. Maybe it felt good going in, and in their judgment, they decided that that was good enough. It could totally be fine. They do have a 16 centimeter screw right there. You could just incorporate that into your anchor with that quick draw that he's using to clip himself in with. Just take that clove hitch out and then clip it to the ice screw, and then you have a good 3-piece anchor to back up that possibly bad ice screw right there, or not bad, but like possibly not that great ice screw. That could totally be a great solve. But if I placed an ice screw that looks like that, and if it felt bad going in, I would probably either try to move that screw to a different chunk of ice, a bit higher up seems pretty great, or place a 3rd ice screw and incorporate that into my anchor. Another thing that may be a bit nitpicky, but I know other guides prefer, is they would prefer their ice screws to be a bit further away. At minimum 30 centimeters apart, but, even closer to like 45 centimeters. Some mountain guides really like that. And that could be, those ice screws could be 30 centimeters away from each other. It's just hard to see in the video, but it's just another thing to think about. So I just skipped ahead so that way we could break up that rope coiling or the rope stacking part right there. I guess one thing that's worth bringing up is like if I were in this situation with this setup, I wouldn't really clip the Petzl connect adjust into the anchor. I would just clip it high into that ice screw right there just to make things a bit more neat and give myself a bit more feeling of security. But I mean, like if you pull it tight, then it kind of accomplishes the same thing. So a bit of fiddling around with the anchor right there, or with the belay device on the anchor. They placed the ATC in guide mode at the master point. They clip the rope into it. And I actually will do this. So I'm giving them credit right here for attention to detail about which way the plate is facing. So that way it feeds the best to the climber and I can pull in rope. That's something that I think is kind of not taken advantage of a lot, and it's a little underemphasized, is like having twists in the system between the brake strand and the climber strand. And so I commend this person for paying attention to the detail like that.
You're on belay. Okay. Slack.
I also appreciate the checks right there, how they checked or clicked the carabiners just to make sure that they're locked. I got into that habit too where I say you're on, or after I load up the plate and I'm like saying you're on belay, I'm clicking all of my lockers just to make sure that they're actually locked. You'd be surprised at, you know, how sometimes they're magically unlocked. And I want you to pay attention in this next section to how this guy is leaning forward and pulling maybe only like 6 to 8 inches of rope in one throw, and how it's kind of awkward for them, and how it's hard to see without a camera on the climber below them, but how hard it is to kind of keep up with even standard climbing pace. I mean, these folks are ice climbing, so they're going to climb a bit slower than you get in like the rock world, but it is a very awkward stance. It's hard on the back, and it's just not as an efficient way to belay. And I see people doing this all the time, and I work with them during my classes to get them to place that master point higher, because when you place that master point high, your anchor is in a good spot, so that way you're comfortable at the belay. A lot of people, and this is a lot of people that are just learning these techniques, will often place the anchor very low, and it's very hard to give an effective belay and a very insecure feeling at the stance.
Take. No, I can't hear you.
Yeah, so actually, more than that now, the belayer is pulling the climber strand above the ATC in order to just take in slack. This does a few things. One is it makes it harder for the belayer to pull rope through the ATC, as in they're not actually effectively belaying the climber, there's slack in the system. The climber feels like they're being kept up with, so they can keep on continuing at the same pace, but there's actually extra slack in the system that they may not see. And that means that at some point the belayer is going to let go of that climber strand, and a loop of rope is going to fall down to where the climber is, and they're going to be like, what's going on? So you want to, when you're belaying from above, you want to position that anchor so that way you don't have to pull rope above the ATC. The minute you pull rope above the ATC, it's a domino effect and bad things happen, and it's just not an effective way of belaying.
Okay.
So I guess that's all that's worth diving into this video. It ends pretty quickly after that. You don't really see them going into the anchor and continuing from there. But yeah, just a few thoughts. In the end, the main points to take away is build your anchors high so your master points are high. And that's like aiming for like nose height, chest height, somewhere in that range, so that way you can sit back on that anchor and feel comfortable on your stance, and then you can belay effectively with that ATC remaining high. Maybe I'll make a video later today talking about that exact circumstance and ways to deal with that. But in a lot of my videos, I talk about how to shorten the anchor material so that way it is higher up. In ice climbing, that may be a little bit more difficult since you have these big points that are offset from each other, but it's still not impossible. And the key with that is sort of being versatile with your anchor materials and getting good mentorship. So you can hire a guide like me a day. We'll go out ice climbing and we can talk about all these little nuances in the anchors so that way you and your partners can be effective while you're out there. I love how all of these videos end up being a commercial for me. So yeah, hire me. I think that's everything I want to say. I think these guys did a great job. It's great to see them out there climbing. The point of this video is not for me judging them, even though sometimes it sounds like I judge people pretty harshly. It's just sort of offering some advice and offering what I see in this situation. One thing that is easy to see is when you're not juggling all the balls in this scenario, then it's really easy to step back and armchair warrior your way through the whole thing. And that's not something that I'm planning or intend on doing. Maybe I could film myself doing stuff and then I could sit in the back seat and judge myself too one day. I could totally do that. But the whole point is sort of just like learning opportunities for everyone, getting out some content on YouTube. And I'm not trying to embarrass anyone in this video. I have the original video in the description below, so you can check that out and make your own judgment. But if you like what I'm doing, you can subscribe to my channel. You can donate on Patreon. And I try to make regular content, so you can ring the bell for any sort of new videos that I make in the future. Also, if you like this sort of video format, then I'm happy to do it. It's really easy for me to make. But if you want me to review a specific video, you can send that to me in any fashion, like my Instagram or on YouTube, and I'll try to take a look at that for you. So with that being said, thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you in the next one.